to welcome on stage our fourth pitcher, Jacques Lemoy from OFW Ships.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm the Managing Director of Ocean Freshwater Ships, OFW. Our company was founded in 2013. We are a team of 15 marine engineers, marketeers, and senior businessmen. We've been working on a blue economy project, basically going from the ocean to bottled water. Why is that? Well, there's one and several observations we've made starting this project. A, the water on planet is drying out. So we all know this is a critical situation. You've all traveled around the globe, probably slept in hotels, and most of you probably avoided drinking tap water and went for bottled water. There's a reason behind that, and the bottled water in your hotel room was probably imported from Europe or from the States. So when you're in Tokyo, you open a bottle of Evian in the meeting room, it traveled 20,000 kilometers. That's the first point. The second point is, in spite of the fact that the water is drying out on the planet is blue. So there is a lot of water on the planet. Third point is, life started in the oceans, and the water in our body is closely related to ocean water. Your tears are salted, your sweat is salted. So there have been a lot of scientific studies on the relationship between the water in your body, which is about 70% of your weight, and ocean water. Moreover, studies show that deep ocean water is very rich in minerals, far off from the coastline is protected from human pollution. There's very little sea life in the deep ocean if you're not on the seabed and if you're not on the sea surface, somewhere in the middle, basically because there's no light, so there's no plankton generation, so there's no food chain, so that's little bacteria. So you're far from human pollution and you're far from bacteria. You have cold water. It's very rich in marine minerals such as magnesium, calcium, etc. So that's the resource. Another point is we are living a slow revolution. It's invisible to most of us. The middle class around the planet is growing from 2 billion to 5 billion between 2010 and 2030. These are figures from the OCDE. Another figure interesting is that 80% or 70% of the population will be living by 2050 at, let's say, 100 kilometers from the coastline. So there's a big market concentration there. And how does this relate to bottled water market? Well, the bottled water market today is 400 billion liters a year. The growth over the past 10 years has been 7%. So there's no water, but there's a huge demand growth. The premium water market is 12 billion out of those 400 billion, and the growth on the premium water market is 14%. So basically, the deep ocean is probably the vastest and last pure source of water on the planet. Of course, we have to protect it. We have to use it in a smart manner. There's a huge demand. There's a demand gap between resource and demand. So our idea, basically, is to put a bottling plant on a vessel. We call it a bottling vessel. And to have it sailed at sea in international waters, and to plug in a pump, a bottling plant. So I suppose most of you have taken a ferry boat. You've probably parked your cars on one of the decks. So imagine a ferry boat. It's about 190 meters long. It's about 30 meters wide. It has generally 2 parking levels. So on one of these parking levels, we're going to put a bottling plant. And on the second level, we're going to put a warehouse. So the ship goes to sea, collects water from the deep ocean, process the water on board, basically taking out the sodium, keeping the good marine minerals, and bottling it straight away. No storing of raw water anywhere to make sure it stays pure. The process is very automated, and once the warehouse is full, the ship sails back to port to deliver. Of course, the price of water is identical, where if you're delivering Tokyo, Dubai, or Europe, or the States, because you're just displacing your plant, you're not displacing the bottle. So you're actually combining with one asset production and maritime transportation. Okay?
I just want to give the chance to the investors to ask you some questions.
Okay. Yes? Any questions?
You were about to say how much is it per liter?
Okay. Now, our choice is the following. In the bottled water market, there are several segments. You can start with entry market. You'll have, let's say, the price on the supermarket will be 17 cents a liter, basically. If you're talking Evian water, whatever, call it Highland Springs, another Fiji water, Smart water, whatever the brand you like, it's going to be about $2 on the shelf wherever you're on the planet. So our target is to come into port, in any port on the planet, and we sell at $1 a liter. Okay? Now, since we're transporting and producing simultaneously with the same crew, with the same asset, that means we're generating more profits. So basically, the EBITDA is 50%. And that's with standard operating crews, standard bottling equipment. Everything is standard on board the ship. As the gentleman said, there are 90,000 vessels on the planet. There are about 90,000 bottling plants on the planet. The cost of our project for one ship is 35 million euros. What we're doing is we're taking advantage of the second-hand vessel market to this day, which is very low because there's an excess of ships on the planet. So we can find a ship today for less than 10 million euros. A bottling plant is 15 million euros, so you're at 25, and then you have the works, the shipyard, etc., so you add an extra 10, so you're at 35 million. In comparison, one of our investors is a major retailer in Europe. He works in France and in Poland. I'll give you a hint. He invested in a bottling plant that has the double capacity of ours. Ours is 100 million liters a year. His is 200. He invested 30 million euros. It took him 7 years to get authorization, building the roads, the asset, etc. So we're buying a second-hand ship. That's the infrastructure. So there's no time to build the infrastructure. We're integrating a bottling plant, which is basically containerized, onto the ship. So it's a 9-month mission.
We just heard from Ian how he's tackling a plastic waste problem.
Yes.
Are you not fueling a plastic waste problem with several new plastic bottles floating around the world?
Good question. What we have on board, see, this is a European point of view. Now, I've been traveling to Dubai, to Singapore, Shanghai, Tokyo, United States, and Malta in Europe. You can try Malta for water. The thing is, in arid countries, there's no wood. On board the vessel, we need pallets. Pallets are generally made of wood. So what we're doing is we're taking as much plastic, recycled plastic on board as we're producing. And with this recycled plastic, we're producing pallets for our storage of our bottles. So we're recycling plastic on board. Okay, that's the first point. Our ship is eco-friendly also, so just going to the eco side of our ship, the green side, we're pumping cold water. That water is about 9 degrees Celsius. So that's how we're doing the air conditioning on board, seawater air conditioning. So we're generating a lot of savings. In addition, the ship is not a merchant vessel in the sense that it doesn't navigate the seas. Once it's in pumping zone, it's adrift. So that's fuel savings. 85% of the times, we're at 0 speed or just adrift. So that's 85% of the time when we're not using fuel, except for diesel generation for electricity, of course. We've added also solar panels in the project later on for when the ship will be in port to avoid generating noise, because generators are noisy, and we'll have a battery storage on board. And other features may come in later on when the ship is at sea. So that's for the green part. We are working with NGOs as well. There's a strong demand for humanitarian water, and we have interests from the French Prime Minister, just came out this week, for disaster recovery situations. In the Middle East, we will be delivering the port of Aqaba, which is in Jordan, to help NGOs deliver water to humanitarian camps around the area. So there's a demand for premium water. That's our market. That's how we're going to generate cash. And we will also help out to protect the environment. And of course, I've seen some projects here. We are interested in biodegradable plastic. We just think that this will come in about 10 years, given the maturity of the market today.
Just one very quick point from me. Do you think there's any risk that if you got this off the ground, they would require you to get a license to extract seawater?
No, because we're operating in international waters. And what we, yes, to mention, we have signed letters from Classification Society, Bureau Veritas. We have a signed letter from Alpa Labs, which is a food and beverage lab, which analyzes all the water of Veolia Group, for example. So we are fully compliant with International Maritime Organization regulations and World Health Organization regulations. We have about 7 letters of intent from commercial distributors.
So I'm sorry to cut the conversation short, but we've got to make sure that everyone has enough time on stage now. But they will still be here, and I'm sure they'll be very happy to talk to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacques. Thank you.